Hello students, this is a lecture on machine design and with continuation with our last topic, that is on connecting rod. Now we are going to complete the last part of this IC engine component in your syllabus, that is a crankshaft. So it will be having some introduction part, what is a crankshaft, the function of the crankshaft. Basically we have two different types of crankshaft, center and the side. So we are going to discuss the design part of both the center and side crankshaft. Again, the reference which I am going to take will be the famous book of Design of Machine Element by V.B. Bhandari. So the crankshaft is an important part of an IC engine next to the connecting rod, and that converts the reciprocating motion of the piston into the rotary motion through the connecting rod. So in the last class we have seen the connecting rod that connects the piston. On one side we have a piston of the in the connecting rod, and one side we have a crank where crank pin is to be inserted. So this is a part where we can say the connecting rod is connected to the crank pin. So the basic function is to convert the reciprocating motion of this piston into the rotary motion through that connecting rod. So again, the crankshaft consists of three main components, or we can say sub-components, which we have to design in our particular design of the crankshaft. One is the crank pin. There is a crank pin, the big end of where the big end of a connecting rod attached to the crank pin. Second is a crank web. The crank web connects. This is a crank web that connects this connecting rod. That connects this connecting rod to the crank pin, connecting rod, and a shaft portion. So one side of the crank web is the crank pin, and other side will be the crankshaft where motion is to be transmitted. So this is a crank web. Again, we can say it is a connecting device of both the motion for both the components. Last is the shaft portion that rotates in the main bearings. We have two bearings in this also. So and transfer the power to the outside source, and outside source can be with the help of this pulleys or gears. So here it is connected. So this is a complete components of crankshaft. We can say a crank pin, a crank web that connects the crank pin to the main shaft, and one is the main shaft where flywheel is to be attached. Again we have two bearings to support the motion, to support this whole assembly. We have two bearings in this case. Basically we have two different types of crankshaft. This is one type of a side crankshaft. We have a center crankshaft. So we have types of crankshafts in this crankshafts. One is a side crankshaft and one is a center crankshaft. The side crankshaft is a overhung crankshaft also, because we can see that we have a two bearing in this case. So that supports the complete system, and this part is overhang part of the supported end, because as we can see the free body diagram for this. So we have a weight W at this end, that is can be any flywheel or something some other component or gears which can transfer the motion, and one is a weight, or we can say the force that is transmitted through the connecting rod to this end, so that is W1. And these R1 and R2 are the two reactions given by these bearings. So we can say that this is equivalent to overhang crankshaft. So it is also called as a overhang crankshaft, and it requires only two bearings to support this complete system. Basically we use this overhang crankshaft in the medium size engines and the large size engines, horizontal engines. Next is the center crankshaft. Center crankshaft, you can see here we also have this part. In addition to this whole assembly, we also have this part. So that's why in this case it is we can say it as center, because in that case the crank pin lies on the one side of a complete system. Here we can say the crank pin lies between the two bearing or center of the two bearings. That's why it is called as a center crankshaft. So in this case we have three bearings instead of two bearings in the previous case, and a crank pin is here, and we have two webs now, left web and the right web. And this is again the flywheel case, which will help in transfer the motion. This system can be considered as a continuous system because we have a more than two reactions, and again this W1 is nothing but the force transmitted by the connecting rod, that is force or because of the transmitted by the piston, and then W2 is the weight of the flywheel or some other component, belt, pulley like. So this is the W2, and R1, R2, R3 are the reactions that is provided by this bearings, bearing 1, bearing 2 and bearing 3. So basically the center crankshaft is used in or applied in radial aircraft engines or stationary and marine engines. So basically the materials which we use in this both type of crankshafts are the plain carbon steels and the alloy steels, in order to withstand the bending and the twisting movements that is generated by the forces and the reactions for in a complete assembly, because this W1 and W2 will create the bending, and on this R1 or R2 will create the equivalent twisting also. So we have to study all these forces and the behavior of these forces. What is the, we can say, the action of these forces on the system. So now we are going to study the design of the center crankshaft. So we have one diagram for this, a center crankshaft, the number of forces are there. So firstly we are going to study this design, the crankshaft, center crankshaft design, and then we are going to study the side crankshaft design. Before this we should know how many forces are there. So as I already discussed, that the force is exerted by the connecting rod on the crankpin, that is PP. Next is the weight of a wheel W, this wheel flywheel weight W, that will always act in the downward direction. And one force is the P1 and P2, that if it is a pulley type, we can say it is if the motion is transmitted through the pulleys, and we know that we have two sides of, one is slack side and one is the tight side. So P1 and P2 are the total forces that will be in the horizontal direction. So we are making one assumption while designing this center crankshaft. One is that the position is a TDC position, top dead center. So this is a top dead center. If it lies in the downside side, bottom dead center. But we are going to discuss, or we are going to design the crankshaft only on the basis of TDC, that is top dead center. That in that case, what happening in this is that the force P that is transmitted by the connecting rod will always be a vertical force, and there is no inclination. That's why when the force act vertically on the PP in bearing 1 and bearing 2, there is no horizontal reactions because of this PP. So I am again repeat this point. We are considering only the TDC part, that is top dead center part, where the force due to the connecting rod is vertical, and because of this vertical we only have a vertical reactions R1V and R2V. R1V and R2V. Secondly, if this there is no such horizontal force because of this PP. Next we have this W load. W is a load of that flywheel. In this case we also have one P1 plus P2. Because of this W and because of this P1 plus P2, the total reactions on the bearings 2 and 3 will be R2-V and R2-H. R2-V because of W and R2-H because of this P1 plus P2. Similarly, at the bearing 3, we have R3-V and R3-H. R3-V is because of the load W, and R3-H is because of the horizontal load P1 plus P2. So in this way we have a complete forces that acts on the complete system. This B, the distance between the bearing 1 and 2, and C, the distance between bearing this 2 and 3. So this is the total system of the crankshaft. So we break this system in, we can see that this is an equivalent diagram where the number of forces are there. So I break this diagram into two parts. One is the, we can say, the left hand side part, where only this connecting rod is to be considered. So in that case only we have R1V and R2V. There is no horizontal component in this case, only vertical component is there. Similarly, I break this part into this part W and name it a dash part. So R2V dash and R3V dash. So in this case, this is because of vertical, and if it is a horizontal, that W is replaced by P1 plus P2, and here V is replaced by H. So R2V, R2H dash and R3V, 3H dash. So at point 2 we can say in general, that means in this R2V is a sum of the two reactions. One is R2V because of this PP, and one is R2 dash V because of this load W. These are add up at this reaction point 2. So further, now but firstly we are going to determine the bearing reactions. That again, bearing reactions are what? R1V, R2V, when I talk about this PP, then R2 dash V, R3 dash V when I take into consideration the W, R2 dash H, R3 dash H because of this P1 plus P2. Since there is no such horizontal force lies on this crank pin, so we only have this vertical component, no horizontal component on bearing 1 and 2 because of this PP. The horizontal component that is present in the case of bearing 2 is only because of this load, or this P1 plus P2 load, that is because of the tension and tension side and the slack side. So that's why we have a horizontal component in both the bearing 2 and 3. So now the main part, the first part is to determine these bearing reactions, all these bearing reactions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 bearing reactions we want to determine, and then find out the equivalent. So for this I break the diagram into two components. One is, let's say, on the left side part where only crank pin is considered, and other part is where the load W and the belt tensions are considered. So we have two different diagrams. Based on these two different diagrams, we are going to find out these reactions R1V, R2V, R2V dash, R2H dash, R3V dash and R3H dash. So this relation we already know, that the force acting on the crank pin is given by the maximum pressure. That is, this maximum pressure is because of the we can say the piston that can be exerted by the piston on the connecting rod, and that is transferred to the crank pin through the connecting rod, and that will be equal to pi d square by 4 into this area into maximum pressure. This d is the diameter of a piston, and this is what the force that acts on the crank pin. So PP, that means we already know. Now we want to know is all the reactions. So firstly I will talk about the left side part, that is crank pin. So for this I can make the equivalent diagram like this. R1V, this is R1V, this is R2V, and the PP is acting downward. So we will take a moment about this, a moment about one end of the, because we know that it is a one type of simply supported beam. We consider it as a simply supported beam. That means at the end the moment will be 0. So we will take any moment, any point as a reference, and taking the moment about that point. Let's say I have taken this as a moment about this point, let's say moment about this bearing 1, then it will be equal to what? PP, this PP into B1, this distance is B1, you can say this PP into B1, this PP into B1, that is a, we can say clockwise, and this R2V into B, this distance is total B, it is anti-clockwise. So clockwise is equal to anti-clockwise, so you will get the value of R2V. Similarly you will get the value of R1V by taking the moment about this bearing 2. So bearing 2, what will you get? R1V into B and PP into B2. This distance is B2. So again make it equal, because of clockwise is equal to anti-clockwise. You will get the value of R1V and R2V like this. Similarly, when I go to my second diagram, here we have two different parts. Firstly I will talk about this vertical part. So again same procedure, we have to, again this is considered as a simply supported beam. At the simply supported beam, at the ends the moment is 0. So in that case what you will do is take the moment about this point, you will calculate the R3V dash, and similarly take the moment about this point, you will get R2V dash. So this is what you will get the vertical forces, vertical reactions, all vertical reactions. That means R2V, R1V, R3V dash, R2V dash. Now next we talk about the horizontal force. When I talk about the horizontal force, the vertical reactions are what? R2 dash H and R3 dash H. These are the two horizontal reactions. Actually we have a dash here. So R2 dash and R3 dash. Again the same procedure. Take the again it is considered as a simply supported beam. So take the moment about this point, then it will be R3 dash into this distance is what? C is equal to P1 plus P2 into C1. So simply you will get the R3 3 dash h and R2 dash h likewise. Similarly, take the moment about the another end, you will get the value of R3 dash and R2. Now you have all the reactions, all the, we can say 6 reactions we have in total. 2 2 4 4 and this 2 6. So now you have to find out the resultant, because the resultant lies here only. This is the horizontal component, vertical component, and you know that the resultant will be in this direction. That means R2 will be in this direction, that will be equal to the sum of R2 V dash and R2 V and R2 dash H. So you will get the square and sum and square because they are 90-degree angle. So you know that applying the parallelogram law of the forces, you will calculate the resultant force that acts in at some angle to this. So simply you get the value of R1, R2 and R3 now. R1 is equal to R1V only because there is no such horizontal component lies in the bearing 1. But in case of R2 we have two components, horizontal and vertical. R3 we have a two component, horizontal and vertical, and you will get the value of R1, R2 and R3. This is what you will, how you will calculate the bearing reaction first. And the distance B we assumed, or there is empirical relation for the B, that we basically take it as 2 times the diameter of this diameter of a piston. Now next we are going to design the design of a crank pin. Crank pin lies here where the force act PP vertically on this. So we have two components, whether I have to design for diameter of a pin or length of a pin. So we have a DC, the diameter of a crank pin. L is the length of this length of the crank pin, LC, and sigma B is the allowable bending stress, because bending can occur because it acts in the center. And again this diagram you can consider it as a simply spotted diagram. So we know that the bending will occur. So bending will, what the bending will do is you use the bending equation, M upon I is equal to sigma upon Y. So by rearranging the term you will calculate the bending stress, and based on, and you already know what is the bending stress that will be given to you for the crank pin, and from using this relation you will calculate the diameter DC of this. And what is MBC? Basically MBC is a moment because of, let's say, a maximum moment will always occur at the center, because when I talk about the simply spotted beam, at the ends the moment is 0, but at the center the moment is maximum. So that means if I calculate R1V, this R1V into B1, R1V into B1 will give the maximum bending moment at the center. So R1V into B1 we will get it from here. So maximum bending you put here, R1V into V. I is, again, if it is a circular section, that is pi d4 by 64, so DC by 64. Y is the position from a neutral axis, so this is Y is equal to maximum displacement is there from the neutral axis, and it is always at the outer edge or outer surface. Then it will be Y is equal to DC by 2. Sigma B is the bending stress, again from the bending equation, M upon I sigma upon Y. So you will get the sigma from this. So on rearranging this term you will get this expression, and from using this expression you know everything, and you want to calculate only DC part, that means diameter of a pin. When I talk about the length of a pin, I cut that section like this and assume that there is a uniformly distributed load over all the or pressure, we can say. So what is the so this we know that pressure is equal to force by area. So force is what? PP. This PP is a force that is uniformly distributed along the length of a pin, by area is what? DC into LC. So PP by DC into LC, you can assume this diagram like this, and you will calculate the value of LC from this. So the diameter of the pin, length of the pin, you will calculate using these two expressions, where PB is again the allowable bearing pressure at the crank pin, that is always I think 12 to 14 megapascal. Normally it varies from 12 to 14 megapascal, again given in your question. Now the third and the second last part of this crankshaft is the hub. Now what about the hub? Now this hub, when I am going to design this hub, basically hub is a part which joins this crank pin and the main shaft. So we have two bearings again here, same diagram. So we have a left hand crank web and right hand crank web. So we know that here eccentric loading is applied. Eccentric loading means R1B is applied, that is eccentric to this we can say the the component under consideration. So what you will do, you just want to shift this force. You know the rule of shifting this force to this component. What is the rule? I have made one diagram for it. R1V, if let's say this is R1 force which is acting at some distance, eccentric distance x from this component, and I want to study this component. What I will do, I will simply shift this force to this point. When I am going to shift this force R1V to this point, R1V will shift there, that is okay, but also the moment will be there, that R1V into x will also act on that component like this. So whenever you shift one force, eccentric force to the body, force will be shifted. In addition to it, bending moment was also there. So firstly I will, so as you see that this R1V is shifted there, so then R1V shifted to the right web, so it will act as a compressive force, and direct compressive stress will be what? Force by area. Force is what? R1V, and the area will be W into T, width into thickness of the web. So this is a direct compressive stress. Because of this, R1V is now acting as a compressive load. Next talk about the bending moment at the central plane. Now when I talk about the central plane, bending moment will be what? This R1V into the moment, that is x. I want to know what is the x now. This x will be what? B1, this total distance B1 minus this LC by 2, this LC by 2. Now you come here, this B1 distance minus LC by 2, that means you come here. Now you have to shift minus T by 2 again. Now because we are talking about the center of this, so that means minus T by 2. So the MB will be what? Force R1V into distance is what? B1 minus LC by 2 minus T by 2. Now that will be across the center of this center plane. Again I will be equal to WTQ by 12, that is for a moment of inertia, area moment of inertia for a rectangular body about the axis, WTQ by 12. Y is again the outer thickness, that is T by 2. Sigma B, again bending equation, MBY by I. Just substitute every component in this sigma B. You will calculate this, and the total compressive stress will be, this is a sigma B. Now so sigma B is due to bending and sigma C is because of the compressive. We add these two, the total compressive stress will be acting on this web will be this one. And if this stress will be under the we can say allowable stress, then the design is safe. Otherwise we have to think about this width and the thickness, and empirical relation for this are thickness should be equal to 0.7 times DC and the width should be equal to 1.14. These are empirical relations based on some experimental studies. So we have these empirical relations. So now last is a design of shaft, because shaft is now the next part. So bending moment in the vertical, when I talk about the vertical plane, the bending moment will be equal to R3V dash into C2, this distance C2, or it can be R2V dash into C1. Both are the same thing. That will be the bending moment of the vertical plane. Secondly, when I talk about the horizontal plane we have the force P1 and P2, and the horizontal components are R2 dash H and R3 dash H, R2 dash H, R3 dash H. Again, the bending moment due to horizontal plane will be MBH, and the resultant will be again the sum of the two, and the sum and the square of this will be the resultant. This is the vertical component of movement, this is the horizontal component of movement. Square and sum it, you will get the resultant bending moment, and that will give you the again the bending stress. And that bending stress you will check whether it will be allowable or not, otherwise the shaft is not safe under working condition. So this is all about the design of the center crankshaft, where we have discussed all the components, where are the various forces and movements are acting on this, whether the stresses are allowable or not, that we have discussed. In the next class we are going to study the side crankshaft. Thanks and have a nice day.